Creepers left and right, buzz like crazy. Everybody's trying to steal my lady. Spiders in the mirror and feel this can't be right. Back to the scene of a Friday night, to a blessed collision still frozen tight. Spill drinkers, Cupid and the sound of her first chime. And why did you argue? Dreaming of those eyes, the best part of my life. And when we make love, babe, the world don't make a sound. The clock won't turn around. Ooh, you turn around. You thousand little fires, and no, your circle is spreading around from Mars. Keeping barely up with your pace, slowing things down when I wanted to race, catching up again when you try to chase. Feels like we're playing space. Always find a way to make up, right? Even when we're such a fly, even when things just run high, you gotta stop.
Hello my friends, welcome back to another vlog. I just dyed my hair this morning, so like my neck is all red. Oh, it's so wonderful to have freshly dyed hair. I wasn't gonna start a vlog today, but like I just dyed my hair and it looks pretty. And I am reading some books that we could talk about, so here I am. I'm gonna vlog for you. I'm not sure when this vlog will go up. I guess it depends on how many books I read or how quickly I read them. But I have been making my way through Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I'm listening to the audiobook. I was very excited about this book. This is one of my most anticipated reads. I loved Part of Your World, which came out last year. And I've been very much anticipating the second book in this series. So this book is so far pretty good. I'm really liking it. I think that Abby Jimenez has really good banter. She has a really good setup with her romances. I really like the hero in this, and I like how we're getting his point of view. And I can't remember if that was something she did in Part of Your World or not, or if she did, it didn't seem like we got very much. So I think in this book, she's setting up the hero who has anxiety, who's, I think maybe she was his fiance or maybe just girlfriend, left him for his brother. So he's very emotionally damaged in that way, and he's new at this hospital and he's having a hard time fitting in. They call him like Dr. Death because a lot of patients die under his care. So he's a little forlorn little boy who, forlorn man who is really struggling to find his place and to try and feel peace. He's also got a little tiny three-legged dog, which I think he calls Lieutenant Dan from Forrest Gump. It's just adorable. So I really love the hero. And the heroine is the heroine, the doctor that we met in the first book. She, her husband cheated on her and left her, so she's very wary of men. There's a lot of actually like man hate in here, and I kind of don't love that a whole lot. But I do really like this heroine, and I'm excited to see the romance between them, because while she is sort of like a man hater, and initially her and Jacob the hero had a run-in and she was like not really a fan of his, pretty soon they start conversing through letters at work, and she's very quickly won over by him. And so I'm just really liking it. It's very sweet, it's very cute, and I'm hoping that it continues. I have been spoiled for something that happens in the end, but I don't really care because I'm just having a great time reading this book. Abby Jimenez writing is top tier. I just loved Part of Your World, which was actually the first book of hers that I had read, because I had heard so many mixed things about her books. Like, people weren't sure if they liked them or what, and I was like, I loved that book. So I haven't gone back into her backlist at all, but Part of Your World I thought was fantastic. So I'm very excited about this book. Really looking forward to reading it. So, however, today is Tuesday, which means it's new release day for traditionally published romances. And I decided, earlier this year I was like, I'm not going to take any more arcs, and I had a few on the back burner that I was waiting to get closer to their publication date so I could read and review them, because I personally don't love reading arcs way ahead of time, because then I kind of forget about them before they get published. But in this case, that didn't work out well for me, because April has been the month of indie author arcs. I got 2 Carissa Broadbent arcs. I got an arc for Anna Huang, which I am also reading right now. And then I also got the arc for Juliet Cross's Grim and Barrett, the last book in the Stay a Spell series. So that is a lot of arc. Oh, and I got Brittany Cherry's arc. That's 5. That's 5 arcs in 1 month, which is a lot for me, because I'm kind of, I kind of take my time reading physically, because I don't have a lot of time to devote to reading physically, because I'm, working a lot. But I am... Because today is New Release Tuesday, one arc that I did not get to, which I really, really wanted to, was A Rogue's Rules for Seduction by Ava Leigh. I've read both books previously in the series. I had arcs for both of those. Really, really enjoyed them. With each book in this series, I've enjoyed the next one even more. So I really liked the first book, The Good Girl's Guide to Rakes. Absolutely loved the second book. I think it's How the Wallflower Was Won. And the third book I'm really excited about, because this is Dom's story. So this book is basically the final culmination of what we saw happen in book 1. Dom was engaged to marry Willa, I believe that's her name, in the first book, and Willa's 2 brothers convinced Dom to leave her at the altar because they thought that was going to be in her best interest, and not realizing that the 2 of them were deeply in love. Willa and Dom were deeply in love. And those 2 idiots messed everything up, basically. So there's a lot of hard feelings between Dom and Willa, and things are going to have to be tried to make right. In this book, for some reason, I'm not entirely sure why, I just started the book today, they all end up on this island, like an island getaway, which is fun and unique. And Dom doesn't know that Willa is there, but she is there. And so they end up thrown together. It's Finn and Kieran's idea to hopefully sort of make them kiss and make up. So I'll let you know my feelings on that as I finish it. And then, yeah, I'm not sure what else I'll include. I definitely want to include both of those books in this vlog, and then we'll see how far we get. So thank you, my friends, for being here for another vlog. I'll update you when I have more to say. Hello, my friends. It feels like it has been forever since I have filmed a vlog clip in my studio. I feel like I'm either always in my bedroom or my truck. And of course the dogs. Both dogs are out together right now, which I usually try to avoid filming if they're both out, because they're both, they're being loud already, and we just got started. So I finished A Rogue's Rules for Seduction. This is probably, I can't decide if this one or the second book is my favorite in the series. Probably, I don't know, it's so hard, because they both do so many things that I love. So I gave this book 5 stars. I loved it. I loved the narration. I think Mary Jane Wells really is the type of narrator that just elevated this book to a whole different reading experience. Also, look at my cute hoodie. It says book friends are the best friends. I'm a rep for Hello Lovely Box. This is from Hello Lovely Box. My code and link to the shop is always in the description if you ever want to get something up. Pick something up and we can match and be besties. Anyway, so this was second chance romance, self-deprecating, self-loathing hero who feels like he's just not good enough for the heroine, like, at all. We have some circumstances for why he left her at the altar. In the beginning of this series, in the first book, that's what starts this whole chain of events, is the 2 brothers convince Dom to leave Willa at the altar. They're engaged to be married. They're in love. And Dom, because he has issues of his own that he's working through, agrees, because he believes Willa's going to be better without him, So, in a way, once again, here we are, white fanging, which is typically something that I don't like. But I do like it when it's the hero who is, like, self-loathing type of thing, So the whole book is this circumstance of events where the couple is trying to avoid each other, but they're caught in these situations where they can't avoid each other, and they're feeling this pull and draw towards one another over and over again, which just kind of keeps ratcheting up the whole way through. And I think that it has a really effective slow build in that way, where the tension is just super, super high and just really, really wonderful and fun to read about. And I just loved it. I loved this hero. I knew I was gonna love Dom. You know, you see him in the first 2 books, and he's just a wonderful hero, because he's just this big, huge, muscular guy. Comes, you know, he doesn't come from nobility. He's not anything in the peerage. He's not titled or anything like that. He's basically like a self-made man, and he does have a dark past. But because he was like a dock worker, he's just this huge, hulking, powerful man. And there's this phrase early on in the book, and I can't exactly remember what it was, but the gist of it is that Willa, the heroine, notices that he's this big, powerful, strong man with this capacity to do violence. But he is nothing but tender with her, always. Always tender, always gentle. And that is such a weakness of mine. I love seeing that in romances, specifically when it's either like called out or something happens where we see that like huge discrepancy between this big, powerful man, but all of his interactions with the heroine like are gentle in the way he touches her, the way he talks to her. It just... I love it so much, and I think that right there is a very effective alpha mellow. So Dom is added to the list of alpha mellows because he's fantastic. I felt like they just had great chemistry. I don't feel like this was angsty. I do feel like it had a lot of sexual tension, which was really, really good, and I just enjoyed it a lot. It was just really fun, and yeah, I think there were also something that I really loved in the second book. I think How the Wallflower was one. Something I loved about that book was how there were these little pockets of just quiet moments between the hero and heroine. And in those moments when they're like talking and they're sort of like testing the waters to see if they're going to trust each other, you know. And in those moments of just newfound trust, they share something vulnerable. Like, I just love that so much. And I think that is something that I don't see handled as delicately as I would like it to. Like, I think you have to really hit that balance of, this is a moment where this person is trying to establish trust. Are they going to take the leap and trust and share something, or are they going to stay at not, you know? And I think that also we could say that, coming back to A Rogue's, this one, the book that I just read, I think that, I mean, you could obviously say this book is a case study in miscommunication. And that's also something that I really like about this book, is that Ava Leigh takes these very, very conventional, very well-known tropes in romance, and she just writes them so clearly and cleanly and just gives you this beautiful story. Nothing in here that feels overdone, nothing in here that feels it's for shock value. This is just great storytelling, great romantic storytelling. And I just really, really love how she continuously, in this series specifically, Ava Leigh, I think each book has been better than the previous one. Each book has built off of the previous one. So I think that this is the third book in the series. I think the series is worth your time to pick up. If you were looking for like a modern historical romance, I think that this series specifically is Ava Leigh at her best that I've seen her do. And while I've enjoyed each book in the series, and I've technically given them all 5 stars, there are varying shades of 5 stars. This one is really powerfully 5 stars. It was just so great. There were a lot of like conventions and tropes, like close proximity and caught in a storm, and like just the fun things that we like in romance, but they felt very fresh. They felt handled with a lot of care and subtlety, so it didn't feel tired and formulaic, you know? And I think that's what I love the most about this book, is that these are very familiar tropes, things that we know to expect, but they're handled in such a way that it feels fresh and new, and it doesn't feel like I've read this 100 times, you know? Which, a historical I read at the first of the month, that's exactly what that felt like. Like, I've read this story 1,000,000 times. There's nothing done here fresh or exciting or new. It's leaning too hard into the things that we're already very familiar with. And I think that that sort of blend of restraint and giving in the couple's romance was done perfectly here. I just loved it so much. Little Miss Wanda, come see me? Come say hello to the people? Look at, Oh, there's Wanda on camera. She never gets to be on camera like this. She is constantly climbing in my lap when I'm working. This is my desk where I'm working. And always, the whole time that she's out, she's constantly like doing that, climbing up on my lap, and it's so adorable. But it's so hard to get work done, so sometimes I just have to put her in her crate so I can like focus and not get a little dog. I mean a big dog, because she's as tall as Cosmo now. Anyway, it's Friday night, and I just finished that book, so I'm probably not going to be vlogging much over the weekend. So obviously this isn't going to go up on Monday. Hopefully Tuesday. Hopefully this will go up on Tuesday. That'd be great. Or maybe Thursday, or maybe Wednesday. I don't know. You'll see it when you see it. You'll know when you're watching this. But, yeah, that was just really, really fantastic. I loved it so much. And so I know in the opening I talked about I was going to include the Abby Jimenez, and I still might do that, but after reading Ava Glaze, and I actually also already started this book and then I put it on hold to read Abby Jimenez. I've been doing that a lot lately where I start a book, I listen to it, not with my physical books. All my physical reading has been done with ARCs lately. And then I end up like, something else is like, oh, shiny new book, let's listen to that, you know? So I have Hotel of Secrets by Diana Biller checked out from my library, which is a historical, I think it's set in Venice. I'm a few chapters into that. I don't really have enough to talk about or even to really give you any type of a plot synopsis about it. So I'm not sure which of those I'm going to pick up next. It's either going to be the Abby Jimenez, yours truly, or Hotel of Secrets. Maybe both. We'll see how much reading I get done because, like I said, I've decided I'm not going to vlog on weekends. I don't like feeling that pressure of having to read with the purpose of talking about it, you know? So, is that weird? I don't know. Anyway, okay, thank you for listening. I'll see you when I see you with an update on one of those books. Maybe something else entirely. Who knows? We'll see. I'll see you soon.
It is time. It's the perfect summer night. Those three words are spelled out in your eyes. But before I go on, say something wrong. I just hope and bite my tongue. 'Cause you've been told too many times before. Yeah, you've been told so many times before. So I'm gonna try with something new. And I'll never say that I love you. When the line between us just fades and blurs. That's the time when we just don't need more words.
Hello, my friends. Hello. I've got a lot to talk about, okay? So, I have come to tell you that I have quite possibly found my new favorite book of the year. I'm not even kidding you. I am in love with this historical romance, and I was in love with it from the first page. And as I kept reading and reading, I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I kept getting that feeling like this is a new author that I found, This is an incredible talent. This is an incredible story. This is an incredible romance. And I am so happy to tell you that I am now 60% of the way in, and I am still feeling all of those feelings, but even stronger. So the book I'm currently reading is Forever Your Rogue, or My Rogue. I don't know. Titles, man. Titles, they get me. I literally just looked at it. And this is this author's debut. This was her first book. It was published in February. I have had this on my TBR way back when I saw, I think it was Syl on Twitter, had read an arc of this, and she was like, y'all need to get this. And so, like, I pre-ordered it, and it's been sitting on my Kindle, and it's just one of those books that, like, I picked it up a couple times. I had it on my currently reading shelf on Goodreads, and it was like, I felt like I was going to love it, and so I kept putting it off, which I do sometimes. I don't know why I'm dumb that way, but I have been wanting a truly great historical romance. Great is, for me, right, something that I consider to be great, with really beautiful, flowy, not flowy as in flowery, but writing that doesn't, like, continuously have me, like, stopping, like, jarring me out of the story. Just a writing style that flows very smoothly, very crisply, very easily, and I would say that is definitely what is happening here. I think that she is using her words in a way that at times can be over-descriptive. You know, I think she tends to sometimes lean into prose that can be a bit flowery, but I find it to be really beautiful. I mean, you know, the saying goes, one person's purple prose is another one's beautiful prose. So I think that there could be an argument that sometimes it goes a little purple here, but I don't care because I feel like it really suits the story and the characters. And the romance, it's so beautiful, you guys. This romance is filled with so much longing and tenderness, beautiful consent, and it's just stunningly gorgeous. So I just am so excited about this book, and I have a feeling this is going to be one of my favorite books of the year, for sure. I'm just out of my head in love with it. So let me tell you basically what it's about. So this book is about Cora, our heroine, who is a duchess, or no, she's a viscountess. Her husband was the, right? Oh my gosh, titles. I'm pretty sure she's a viscountess. And her husband has recently passed away. And so she's a widow. So she's coming up on her year mark of mourning, where she can, you know, come out and live her life without having to wear colors and not see people, you know. So she's coming up on her ending period for her mourning time. And she had 2 children with this man. It was an arranged marriage, a marriage of convenience. Her father set this marriage up because he knew he was about to die and he wanted to make sure she was taken care of. So her dad set this relationship up thinking that she was going to be well taken care of because of the excellent political match this was, you know, like, and she's very well provided for financially. She doesn't have to worry about that at all. And Cora entered this marriage a little young and a little naive, and she entered it with the idea that even though they didn't love each other, that maybe they would grow to love one another. Like, she had that hope. And very quickly she came to realize that her husband did not feel the same way, that he saw her as an obligation and a duty only to provide an heir. And so they had 2 children together, a son and a daughter, and Cora sort of throws herself into motherhood of these children. And that's a huge theme of this book, so if you don't like kids in romance, you won't like this, but I personally love them. And I specifically love the way that it's handled here, where the kids are a vital reason of why Cora falls in love with the man that she does, and it's because of how he treats and responds to her children, and it's just so beautiful. Like, I could literally talk about this book for hours. I just feel like it's just full of beauty. So Cora ends up a widow. She's got these children, she's got this estate, she's financially set, she believes, but a problem comes up when it is revealed that her husband actually did not leave her as the guardian to her children. He left his brother in charge of them, who is like a vicar, and their plan, the brother, who is the guardian of her children, and his wife, is to take the children away from her to then be able to use the funds because the boy is the heir. So she's trying to do everything she can to prove to the court that she is a worthy mother and that she can be actually their mother, their guardian, and not have the children taken away from her, because, you know, that was a rule at the time. If the father died and there was a title, or any, you know, like, if the father died, it wasn't a guarantee that the woman was the guardian of her children. They could be taken away from her. The father could assign someone else to be the guardian for who he felt was going to take care of the estate best, and that's what happened here. So the wife, Cora, she is deeply in love with these children. Like, she plays a very active role, much different than a lot of historical romances. She's down on the floor playing with her kids. She's being a great mother, and they're the loves of her life, because when she realized that her husband was not going to love her or care for her, that he was going to have mistress after mistress after mistress and literally have no tenderness for her at all, she sort of seals off that portion of herself where she believes that she could fall in love, that she could have a loving relationship, and she's like, my children will be my love. And I just found so much of this book to be just so beautifully told, deeply emotional, and just so relatable in a way that I feel like maybe a younger reader, and I don't mean to say this in a harsh way, but I do feel like maybe if you're a younger reader and you don't have much experience in relationships or love or how things like that work, you know, and especially I think with the added element of having children and how that affects your life and how that affects a marriage and a relationship, I feel like this book may be difficult for people who maybe haven't had those experiences to relate to as deeply as I did. But, you know, because I am a wife and I am a mother and I have had a lot of experience in a relationship, this book felt deeply relatable and just beautifully told and felt very true. And the characters are just so beautifully fleshed out. I love everything about them. So anyway, the heroine Cora, her plan is to find someone to pose as her husband, thinking that if she has a father figure in their life, that the court will be more likely to grant her full guardianship of her children. And so she ends up meeting a man she tries to enlist the help of a man who she knew before she got married. And there was some sparks that happened between them, but nothing came of it because he was a rogue. He was definitely a rogue and a rake and a scoundrel. So much so that he ended up falling into deep, deep debt, and Cora ended up bailing him out with some financial help and saving him. And then she's like, you owe me. And he's like, you're right, I do owe you. So here she comes, calling in her debt, and she's like, hey, I need you to pose as my husband for the summer to convince these people that we're in love, that we could be a family and raise these children, and this could be a good, safe place for them, that they belong with their mother, and oh look, we also have a man who would be their father. So that's the setup, which I thought was very cleverly plotted, very cleverly set up. I think it has the promise of this plot feels very reminiscent of almost like a Lisa Kleypas or a Lorraine Heath type of historical plot, which is very tight, very clever, very unique, and all of the plot elements are necessary to get you to feel for the characters and to progress their romance. I have so far, I mean, again, I'm not finished, I'm 60% of the way through. I have adored everything about this book. This is a slowly building relationship so that the couple, they don't even actually meet until the book is 20% of the way in. This is a bit of a long book. It's like 450 pages, I believe. But all of that, like, I was just eating this book up. It didn't feel slow to me at all. And I think that says a lot to how she's built these characters up and the situations. I was really invested in both the plot and the characters and how they were going to meet and how this romance was going to work out. Because the hero, Nate, he has his own issues, you know. He is a scoundrel and a rogue, and his brother is, I think the Duke, and his brother is basically cut him off financially, so he's in need of some money, and that's why he's interested in going along with this deal with her, because she's gonna, you know, pay him a pretty penny, because she's got money, she doesn't have the man that she needs. But it's just so absolutely lovely. And this book is also filled with some things that I deeply love, that I miss in a lot of contemporary romances and honestly a lot of historical romances that I've seen nowadays too. This one delivers so much on the swoon factor for me, which is telegraphed through very small details of wanting to touch but not being able to, or envisioning just something simple like he fantasizes about touching her bare skin beneath her glove, and it's not just a chaste romance either. There's already been a steamy scene, and the build up to it was just excellent, but it was so deeply intimate. I adored it. I just love this book so much. And there's a scene in here when Nate is interacting with her children. They're very young, like maybe 4 and 2. And he goes to rescue the little girl who's the youngest. She's 2 because she's afraid of dogs. And he is just, this is in a moment where he doesn't realize that he loves the Cora yet, and this is in a moment where he's trying to figure out these complicated feelings and not able to put a name to them. He doesn't really know why he feels all of these feelings, and he's conflicted because he's a rogue, he's a rake, he's a scoundrel. And this little girl is just in this moment of distress, and his first thought is, my little girl's in trouble. And that moment of him feeling like, this is my kid, this is my child, I'm their father, it just, like, even though it was like a fake relationship, it's just absolutely beautiful. It's so beautiful. This is when I love when kids are included in romance, when it plays a big active role in the couple falling in love because of the relationship they're having with their kids. So this book is stunning, beautiful. I'm loving it so much. All of that to say, I did pick this up just on the heels of reading the Ava Leigh, which I did talk about earlier. And after spending, a couple of days thinking about that book, I've decided to lower my rating to 4 stars because it's not quite a 5-star. And honestly, I was a little disappointed in how the final 30% went, which to me was just overwhelmingly pointless steam for steam's sake, And I just felt like that book had such great, beautiful romantic build-up, but it didn't fully deliver on them coming together as a couple, unless all that you were looking for was, 30% sex scenes, then you'd probably be happy. Which I know there's a large portion of people who get that, and, it's a big joke that 1-star reviews for too much sex, and I'm not giving it a 1-star, it's a 4-star. It's a great book. It just didn't deliver on the emotional impact that I felt like she had set up and that I know that this author is capable of. So, still really great, still definitely recommend it, just slightly disappointing in the ending because that's one reason why I don't like smut, is because I feel like authors will sometimes rely on that to carry their story while not doing any of the work to bring the couple together or to integrate it into a way that feels like it's truly intimacy and not just spice, Anyway. Alright, I'm going to finish this book, and then I'm going to come back to you. It's on Kindle Unlimited, Forever Your Rogue, Forever My Rogue. I immediately bought the paperback. It should be here Thursday, and I'm having a lot of feelings about this book, and I'm loving it very much. So I'll come back when I've finished it with my final review, but I predict it will be 6 stars. Okay, y'all, I finished Forever Your Rogue. And I was right. This is a 6-star book for me. I loved this book so much. I feel like everything that I love about historical romances is in this book. The longing, the small touches, the small gestures, the romance. This book is so romantic. And then we have the added element of this is a story about a mother and how much she loves her children. And this man who comes into her life, and he not only falls in love with her, but he falls in love with her children. And it's so incredibly beautiful. There are so many parts of this book that I love. There are so many elements of this book that I love. But probably, as I finished this book, I was thinking, what else can I say? I literally spent 10 minutes talking about this book, about how romantic it was, and how just beautiful it was. Like, I can think of 3 books that I have read this year. 3 books that I have read this year that are what I want romance to be. And it's The Right Move by Liz Tom Ford, and The Wolf and the Wildflower by Stacey Reid, and Forever Your Rogue. And all of those books have something in common, and it is that they are deeply, deeply romantic, with a big portion of the book focused on falling in love. And once again, I'm going to say, I find it so sad that that is something that is a rarity in romance now. I feel like with so much emphasis on spice, with so much emphasis on even sex positivity, that seems to have just taken over romance. And don't get me wrong, obviously sex and physical intimacy is a huge part of a romantic relationship. And there can be so much conveyed through that portion of a relationship. But I think that, with the hype and with book sales and book talk and everything, that has taken such a center stage. And so those 3 books that I mentioned, those feel like a return to a romantic book. And this book was just so incredibly lovely. so many moments of how these characters feel about each other when they're falling in love, while they're falling in love, before they even know that they're in love. They're just having these interactions, they're trying to figure out how they feel. But then when they finally decide to have a relationship, and it begins just as something physical, you know. But it's a beautiful physical relationship. It's not anything that feels really just titillating or smutty or, you know, like it's just so incredibly lovely. And the way that this author expresses how these characters feel for one another is so deeply poetic, I feel like. I like how she chooses things to describe so that you can, it's such a visceral feeling as you're reading this. And I think that, you know, descriptions of all the things in writing and prose that seems to be very individual, I think that description is one that is extremely individualized. Like, some readers don't care about description, they'll skip over it, you know. I personally like a good amount of description, but I don't want it to be overly descriptive. I want to be able to use my imagination to sort of fill in the gaps. I don't need a ton of description. And I'm not just talking about like the way a person looks or the setting or things like that. But another thing that description does is it conveys how this character feels, you know, like when he's looking at the curve of her neck and her hair and what he's imagining and how that makes him feel. All of that is descriptive. And that's something that I think is really difficult for authors to get right because it's so easily overdone. But if you don't go hard enough, then it's really hard to convey that feeling for your reader to feel in that moment, the longing that this man has for this woman simply because he saw the way her hair curled off of her neck. Like, I just die over stuff like that. It is the most beautiful and romantic thing to me, and I just think that this author did that perfectly. I really liked how this plot was layered and built. I liked all of the character interactions. I loved all the characters. I loved the setting. I loved the tiny details about what they ate or what was at the ball. Or, you know, like another tiny detail is how she felt about the gown that she bought for this ball. And here's a woman who has been so, you know, like I say it all the time in historical romance, it's typically when it's a widow romance, the heroine is typically very repressed because her marriage was a marriage of convenience. It was very unhappy. She learned to live and try to eke out joy as she could, but all the while she's missing that thing that she wants, which is a great love, to be loved and to love, you know, maybe not even a great love, you know. I think, again, this all ties back into, I've been having so many thoughts lately about romance novels and how I feel about them and how I think they're important. And then I contrast that when I read a romance novel that to me is a really terrible example of a romance novel, and yet that's the thing that gains traction and gains popularity. And I read that and I'm like, this is just pages and pages and pages of sex and nothing else, and taboo-ness. And that's not romance to me. That's something that is shocking, entertaining for some people, not for me. But to really tap into this feeling of romance and things that are romantic gestures, I want to feel this experience of this couple being together, having stolen moments together, or building up to the stolen moment and then trying to finally get there happily ever after. And how does it feel when he's looking at her or she's looking at him and she feels like, this is my person but I can't have them? Like, it's beautifully done here. I can't say enough good things about this book, you know? And I am going to say, this is probably not going to hit for everybody like it did for me, because this has very specific things that I love and that I'm wanting, and I feel like I've tried to convey that to you. So if you are looking for those things too, I think you will love this book. I can't imagine, if you're a regular watcher of my channel, that you're just here for smut recommendations, because, you know, that's not what I do. But this is just such a beautiful example of romance, and the steam in here was just, like, it does that thing for me that I love them to do, that also happened in The Right Move specifically, where there's a lot of emotional intimacy building in that moment, and I think that's such a difficult thing for an author to do too. So I adored this book with my entire heart and soul. I am so happy that I picked this up. I kind of just picked this up on a whim. You know, I talked earlier, I was going to include the Abby Jimenez, which I'm still reading. And I was thinking of maybe doing the Hotel of Secrets. I'm still reading that also. But for whatever reason, I just kept, like, pick that book up, even though I have physical arcs that I need to read. And so I finally picked it up. It's been literally on my shelf. I pre-ordered this book because of that Twitter review that I saw. I pre-ordered it and I was like so excited about it. And I just loved this book so much. It occupies a really big spot in my heart. And I also feel like there's just so much relatability in this book to, you know, women in general, I think, but I do feel like specifically it feels very relatable to me because of how she feels as a mother and what she's looking for in a potential father to her children. And it's just lovely. It's so beautiful. Like the longing, not only the longing for romance, but the longing for a partner in her life and a father to these children who will laugh and play with them and just be there for them, like protect them. It's just so beautiful. It just slayed me, and I'm so incredibly happy that I picked it up, and I can't wait to pick up other things from this author. I just got on Instagram, followed this author, and saw she's having a novella come out May 12th that is about some characters that you see in this book. So yeah, this is a top tier recommendation for me. I absolutely loved it. If you're a historical romance fan, pick this one up. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Alright, thank you so much, my friends, for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you've made it this far, please feel free to leave me a unicorn emoji, and I'll see y'all in my next video.